Welcome to A Well Cared For Human, the podcast that tries to convince you that you are 100% normal and an even better than okay example of the human species, despite the fact that sometimes we feel like the craziest, most incapable, or worthless creatures on the face of this planet. I'm Kory, an author, a creative, and the host of the show. Whatever you're bringing to the table today, I hope this episode proves to be a dose of inspiration for you on your quest to become a well-cared-for human. You can find the episode show notes, your free wellness blueprint, and more at awellcaredforhuman.com. And as always, thank you for listening. Hello humans, it's your host Kory, and today we're going to talk about distraction. This world is full of distractions, and these distractions come from the outside world, a world full of noise and interruption, all those texts and emails and ads and notifications. But they also occur internally, too, in our thoughts, which can be very distracting, or our emotions, which can be very distracting, or our worries or anxieties, which absolutely are distracting. And so we're taking damage from both angles, inside and out. We're being attacked by these distractions, because a distraction is anything that interrupts us. And so I want to talk about both the distractions that interrupt us, coming from the outside, but also the ways that we distract ourselves. And I just want to start off by saying that we all do this. We all get on social media or turn on the TV or do things to lose ourselves in the input stream, as I like to call it, because as long as we are in the input stream, we don't worry about what's going on underneath. Maybe there's a difficult emotion or maybe there's some dark thoughts. But with me, if I just get on the internet and I start scrolling, I can distract myself from any of the terrible bad feelings I'm having. Assuming that my algorithm doesn't betray me and start showing me terrible things, because then I'm like, oh, this is not a great place either. Why'd you do me dirty? I came here to get away from the bad things. And so I do recognize that anytime I am scrolling too much or I'm losing myself, I'm usually struggling with emotional regulation in some way. Because usually I don't realize that I am emotionally dysregulated when I'm caught up in distractions. It helps me to ignore maybe what's going on underneath for a longer period of time. And I consider myself to be a pretty aware person. So if I can spend like a whole hour on Instagram, for example, before I even realize, oh, you know what? I'm all over the place. Something is going on here. I am obviously trying to run from something because I am 500 Instagram reels deep at this point. And so what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do to figure out what's driving me to distraction and how do I want to address it? And let's be honest, it's not always as neat as that. Sometimes it isn't until I am 500 Instagram reels deep and the algorithm is the one that says, here's something awful. And I go, ooh, that's enough internet for the day. And I've already lost hours at that point, and who knows, I may have lost even more if I had kept going. And so what's going on here when this happens, and what can we do about it? Well, these are the techniques that I use to manage myself when I'm being very distracted. And these are the techniques that I work on to improve my focus. But certainly there are many resources online about how we can control our attention, minimize distractions, so on and so forth. So mostly what I'm trying to focus on today is what might be driving the urge to go be distracted. Because that's more what I feel like we don't talk enough about. Like, of course we all get distracted. The world is built to distract us. Their entire industry is built around grabbing our attention and taking us away from things so that we spend money or we go do something else. This is not a surprise. But what's going on underneath that's driving the situation? So emotionally, many things are creating distractions, or many things are leading us to want to indulge in distraction. Sometimes I'm feeling frustrated with something, like I really want to get somewhere on a task and it's not working, and I'm like, oh, I just need a break from this. I need to wander off and do something else. And so I seek alleviation of my frustration, my sense of stuckness, and so I'm trying to look for that dopamine hit or something fun to happen to take me away from the frustration I'm dealing with. Or sometimes I'm experiencing anxiety, so if I'm really anxious about what's going on, I might want to try to numb out those worries a little bit. I might want to take myself to somewhere happier, like a happier place. So I might go try to look at videos that are soothing, or, play a video game that's a totally different experience, like a creature comfort kind of thing. And so that's an attempt to escape the anxiety that I'm feeling. Same is true for stress, like maybe I'm feeling too stressed or tensed in my body, and so I'm wanting to escape that sense by distracting myself. Or sometimes there was a lack of control or helplessness, which I touched on last week in that episode, and we want to distract ourselves from that, and so we might choose a distraction that gives us a more controlled experience, like, okay, I'm now alleviated from this sense of helplessness. I think for me, because again, I do like to play video games, and so if I'm feeling helpless, what's more contrary to that than hopping on a game and winning? Don't feel so helpless now, because I'm getting that sense of progress. I'm getting that sense of advancement that maybe I wasn't experiencing moments before when I was feeling really stuck. But there are a lot of really negative side effects to distraction. One is that they don't always help us to address the emotion themselves or to make ourselves more comfortable with the emotion as well. Emotions will bother us less the more comfortable we are with that emotion. And if we're always distracting ourselves away from that emotion, we're not getting that practice with that emotion to help us build, I guess I would call a tolerance to it. And then also, I don't know if this is true for you, but I become less and less satisfied with my distractions. So if I'm always running to Instagram, for example, in order to not deal with some terrible emotion like anxiety, I'll find that once I'm on there and I'm scrolling, I'm not really satisfied with the content anymore, or it's not giving me the same relief that it was before. I'm not finding the same pleasure in it that I did in the past. Boredom is another one, an emotion that we try to avoid, and so we distract ourselves so we don't have to feel bored. But bored is more tolerable if you're comfortable with bored. If you're like, yeah, nothing's happening right now, and I'm okay with that. And so, again, trying not to escape that opportunity to practice with difficult emotions, because we won't always have the opportunity to distract ourselves. That's the thing. We won't always have the opportunity to escape. Sometimes we will have to sit with the difficult emotion. And so we might as well train for that. We might as well practice with that when and if we can. And so managing our time and our attention is really just an effort to try and mitigate these emotional responses. But again, it's tricky because the odds are sort of stacked against us. The research that I came across when I was looking into distraction and why we do it and what it means and the connection to emotion is that we're actually prone to distraction for many reasons. One, there's the evolutionary biology, which was that humans are evolved to pay attention to changes in their environment. That's part of our ability to survive, is that we notice when things are new or they're different. And so we like that. We like that unexpected stimuli. It kind of perks us up, so to speak. So you get on something like social media where you can just scroll endlessly, or you can get on YouTube and the videos, especially now that they've got the shorts, right? You can just scroll forever and it's always something new. So it's continually triggering this ingrained biology that we have. There's also the information overload. So in today's digital age, we are bombarded with so much information from all the different sources. And that's not just social media, that's also our emails or the notifications. I had to turn all the notifications off on my phone because anytime I saw one of the little red numbers, I had to look. I had to look and see what was going on. And so this constant flow of information makes it really hard for us to focus because, again, all of our attention is constantly being fought for by these other platforms, these entities, so to speak. Some of us are not as great at multitasking as others of us. So some of us, absolutely no problem to be doing all these things at the same time, including the distractions. But for the rest of us, when our attention is divided, it makes it really easy to get sidetracked, to forget what we were doing, or to have a hard time coming back to it. Some of us don't shift, I guess I could call it, back and forth between tasks too easily. So for example, I, probably because I'm introverted, tend to deep dive into a task. So let's say that I'm going to write or I'm going to work on something. When I get into it, I get lost in it for several hours. And then when I come out, I don't shift really easily to the next task. Like I kind of need a minute before I go into the next thing. But I know friends who they do one thing and immediately they go into the next thing and immediately they go into the next thing. Their shift is a lot more fluid than mine. They don't move as slowly as I do. It's something to take into account. And all of this is on top of this emotional regulation, this desire to escape the stress and anxiety, to escape the boredom, to escape those unpleasant feelings that we don't want to work with. So what can we do about it? So we're prone biologically to feel this way, to love distraction, to get into distraction. We're also being monetized by the corporations who want to literally pay for our distractedness. So they're also sending all these notifications and triggers and things trying to get us to be distracted. And then we're also wanting to escape the emotions, the emotional turbulence underneath. So what do we do? I mean, how do we manage our time when all of that is against us? It feels almost impossible. Well, absolutely, first and foremost, as I mentioned, I would encourage you to get comfortable with difficult emotions. The more you can do to build up your tolerance to difficult emotions, like just see it as weather. Like your emotion is a weather, and you're just tolerating this rainy day. You're just tolerating this difficult emotion temporarily, just acknowledging that it's temporary. That's kind of how I try to view it. Is that, I'm bored. Well, I won't be bored forever. I'm just going to sit here with this boredom for the next 2 hours or whatnot. And again, it doesn't have to be 2 hours right off the bat. Maybe it's just you let yourself be bored for 5 minutes, or you let yourself be bored for 10 minutes, or you let yourself be anxious for 10 minutes. And as someone who struggles with her anxiety, I realize what I'm asking you to do is a big ask, but you do get more tolerant of your difficult emotions the more you sit with them. I also like to look at my environment, and so I have a harder time being focused in chaotic environments. If there's a lot of noise, if there's a lot going on, I can't work like that, I can't think like that or focus like that. So if I can control my environment in any way, I do that. If I can make any adjustments to the tech itself, like turning off all the notifications or putting my phone on sleep, or something that my wife started doing because she felt like she was getting too distracted with her phone, is that she has this app, and I don't remember the name of it, so I can't even tell you, but it like turns all of her fun apps off, which I know for some of you that might sound like torture. But essentially, it'll just like shut down or block her Instagram on her phone, so she can't even use it for like an hour or 2 hours every day. And she set up the parameters for it. So for example, she was like, I always want to make sure that I work out and I make dinner for these 2 hours in the evening. And so it's for that time period, let's say 6 to 8 or whatever. From 6 to 8, her phone just doesn't work. These certain apps don't work. She can still like open essential things, but whatever she felt was her distracting ones, she set them and they get locked down. So you can do something like that. You can essentially account for the fact that you can't be trusted. You can't be trusted with these apps, and so you can set a barrier for yourself. And all of this, we're talking about like self-control, right? We're talking about self-control. And I just want to be clear, I had a Pop-Tart for dinner yesterday, so I understand that self-control is not always feasible, that self-control has a lot to do with other factors that are going on. And so your capacity for self-control is only as good as your sense of wellness. If you're not feeling very well, if you have a lot going on, it's harder to practice self-control. There might be some other things that need to even be addressed or taken care of before we can even start talking about things like distraction and time management. There might be some other issues that need to be addressed. And then there's the emotional layer. And then can you sit with your emotions more? Can you use any of these coping mechanisms to make them more tolerable, such as meditation or journaling or talking it out with someone? Can you make yourself more comfortable with the emotions? And then we're up here, like, so we're like, what, level 3 now? And we're looking at things like locking down the phone or having this kind of self-control exertion, right? So there are layers to this. There's absolutely layers. But some of these other things I do at this higher level, this level 3, when I'm not doing things like eating Pop-Tarts for dinner, is I think about my goals, think about what's really important to me, and try to think about priorities and just maybe not have my phone around. So if I've noticed that I'm doing a lot of Instagram scrolling, for example, that's my big one. That's where I've been getting lost on the internet, or sometimes the YouTube shorts also. If I notice that I'm doing that, I'll just leave my phone not with me. So it's like in another room. And I can do this because I also wear a Fitbit. And so I know my phone will buzz if someone actually calls me or needs me. And so it's not like I don't know what's going on. But the phone addiction is real. Like I'm like, oh my God, but maybe I should just check. And it's like, no, your thing would buzz absolutely if someone was calling you. So calm down. So again, there's this sense of self-control, which is level 3. Level 3 is self-control. But knowing what's important to me, prioritizing that, getting clear on the goals, stepping away from the thing that could be distracting me, that's another way to address it. Doing what I can to the environment to, again, turn off either those notifications or just make it more quieter and work-focused if possible. A distraction-free environment's really hard to achieve. I mean, I feel like some of us wouldn't even know how to describe that. What is the distraction-free environment exactly? Do we even know? But I would say it's probably something without a ton of noise, probably something that's not visually distracting as well. That's a big one for me, actually, is that I get very distracted if there's a lot of visual clutter. My wife Kim does not understand this at all because she is like a low-level hoarder. She likes a lot of stuff. But if I have a lot of visual things going on in my space or things look really out of place, I find it really hard to focus. So a distraction-free environment for me would definitely be one that is tidy, that is neat, there's not a ton of stuff around. Also, if you can keep yourself from being interrupted, I know this is really hard if you've got kids or you've got other people in the home. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to have some kind of call on Zoom and that Kim is next to me in the kitchen, opening every cabinet that can be opened, shutting them, clanging pots and pans. Just like complete chaos, and I have to put on noise-canceling headphones and just be like, oh my God. And so it's really hard. I get that it's hard if you have someone around you who's just a loud person, which I do. And then thinking back to the emotional part, if it's emotional dysregulation, that's when I start looking at things like mindfulness. Like, what can I do to bring that emotion into focus, to maybe reduce the stress or the anxiety, to enhance the self-awareness? I also just treat distractions as an opportunity for meditation. So, for example, in meditation, when we find that our mind is wandering off, that's also a distraction. And so what do? We come back to the breath, or we come back to whatever it is we were listening to, or we change our focus point to that object of meditation that we chose for this exercise. And so if I'm struggling to be focused in the day and my mind's just going all over the place, as it often does, I just imagine bringing myself back, and I tell myself, this is a great way to practice awareness. This is a great way to practice meditation. It is a mindfulness exercise to keep bringing myself back again and again and again. So as long as I commit to redirecting my attention every time that I figure out it's wandered off, then I'm practicing that awareness that I'm trying to build up anyway. Is there a breathing technique that I can do? Can I journal maybe for 5 minutes, and will that quiet my mind enough to let me get back to work? Is there an issue of exhaustion? Because sometimes when I jump on my phone and I'm scrolling, it's because I'm tired and I just really need a break. That's all I need is a break. It's not even as dramatic as all this other stuff I'm mentioning, like regulate your emotions and get your environment right. It's literally just, I'm tired. And so my brain wants to take a break. And so I reach for my phone and I do that. And so is it a better use of my time to set up a schedule where I know that I'm going to get tired of doing computer work after about, that's 45 minutes? Do I just schedule a break at 45 minutes to get up and get away from my desk, to rest, recharge, get a drink, make another cup of tea or something like that? If I know that exhaustion is one of the things that causes me to pick up the phone or to go to the social media, what can I do to prevent that exhaustion from creeping in? Do I just break that up somehow? So some of the times it's also just knowing yourself well enough to know why you're doing what you're doing and when you're doing it and what's causing you to do it. So then you can adjust or account for that. It might also be an issue of boundaries. So again, with Kim, I'm like, please do not open and close every cabinet in the kitchen that we have from 3 to 3:30 today. I have a meeting. Please, oh please. Sometimes it's about communication, but it's hard. It's hard if those people are, because I'm trying to imagine you trying to communicate a boundary with a dog, for example. Like, how would you do that? Or with a 5-year-old child? Those are harder to do. So just doing your best. And again, it's all different for everyone. The situations are different. But for me, I do like to think of distractions and time management as the result of these deeper layers. The first level being what's going on in my life that's creating these strong emotions. That's level 1. Level 2, what is the strong emotion that I'm struggling with, and what can I do to manage that, to regulate that? Is it boredom? Is it anxiety? Is it just exhaustion? What's causing me to do the things that I'm doing? And then getting to the actual management of it, managing the environment, managing the choices that I make, managing the accessibility to the tech, the actual little things that one can do to make it harder to distract yourself. And you can find a lot of resources for time management techniques and what you can do to this, and this. I just want to give you this context that usually that's like the uppermost layer of the problem. The bigger problem are those layers beneath. But all in all, most important thing apart from those 3 layers is to take away that it's not necessary to beat yourself up if you get distracted. It's very human to get distracted. We are living in a world that is capitalizing on that tendency. And so, what chance do you have to not be distracted to some extent? So give yourself a break, give yourself some self-compassion. Just try to create this positive framework around it. Be very mindful of how you're talking to yourself about your habits. Know that there's usually a lot more going on than just your distraction. Your phone addiction is not just something that's happening because you're a weak-willed person. Change that narrative. Be really kind to how you talk to yourself, and then identify maybe what needs to be changed and how you're going to do it gently in that direction, how that can serve you, while using this as an opportunity to practice awareness and get more familiar with your triggers and your emotions and just building up that tolerance. It's just an opportunity to get to know yourself better. And that's it for today, dear human. As always, I hope you found this episode useful, and if you would like to write into the show today and ask me for my thoughts on something that you're dealing with, I would love to hear from you through any of my social media or through email, Kory@KoryImsham.com. Otherwise, I will be back next week with another episode of A Well-Cared-For Human, and until then, please take good care of you. This episode of A Well-Cared-For Human was written and produced by me, Kory Marie. The music was by Late Night Feeler and Esther Abrami. If you like what I'm doing here, please consider visiting my Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get early ad-free access to the episodes, as well as a monthly patrons-only Q&A, bonus videos, and more. Not to mention that your Patreon support lets me know that you find value in the show and want it to continue. You can find me on Patreon by visiting www.patreon.com/Kory Marie. If you can't support the show financially, that is okay. You can still subscribe to the show, leave a review of the show, and recommend the show to your friends, not just the neurotic ones. All of this helps so much. And as always, thank you for listening.